Live from the apocalypse, exploring the duality of man. This is State of the Game.
Oh shit!
Yep.
From the apocalypse. Good God.
We're here. We're a ragtag crew. This is, I am like this is like a league of their own, and I am Tom Hanks.
Okay.
I am Dan O. And so happy, so excited to be to be here and to have my own space. I was tweeting earlier today that it's so fun being in charge of what I do because I don't have to do it if I don't feel good about it, right? Like I can just not do it. It's beautiful. The freedom is beautiful even when the money's not there. So I would say,
language, man. Shit.
yep, gotta get that Condé Nast money. But so we're talking about we are State of the Game, and this is a beautiful thing. I am joined by my co-host. If this is the first time and you're like, "What's your co-host like?" I got it. Don't worry about it. He's just like Ted Danson's character from A Good Life.
I mean, The Good Place.
Good Place. Good Place.
Ah, that's
just
my
like
shit.
The Good Place. Ted Danson character. That's pretty much K. Diggy in a nutshell.
I have to watch it now.
Thank you for leading us.
You in for a ride, bro. I don't know. I don't know how y'all feel about that comparison.
No spoilers. No spoilers for K. He's
no, never. Not that show.
Going through the journey. That's going to be great. So the fun thing about State of the Game is it operates in a very different way than other music discussion forums, in the sense that usually I'm reaching out to my guest, Joshua Virtue, and saying, "Hey, let's," and saying, "Yes, I'd love to have you on. You're great." And we have to make sure to put together a bunch of albums that will mess up my friend Keith. Right? That's what we did. We put together a lineup of albums to discuss that we thought would be the weirdest for my co-host to listen to. It's a lovely show where the guests and the host plot against the co-host every week. So
I was not aware of this. I didn't know we were.
I wasn't either. Now I dig it. I dig it.
All right.
It's awesome. We got to try to expand the mind. So we do have Joshua Virtue here, who is a badass producer, the godhead of Y Records, a wonderful, budding MC who is fantastic in that respect, and really at the height of your powers, like a 28-year-old NBA player.
Wow.
So it's you came out with RAMA last year. It's not covering it enough is one of my big regrets of last year.
It's all good
because it came out in that October-November range.
Yeah,
where I was in full list mode, trying to ramp up my list, and I was just like, "This is so good," but I can't do it all now. But it's so good. Oh man!
Thank you.
It felt like a culmination of years and years of your work. Your production, like you've done beat tapes and you've gotten better and better with your production, and your delivery is more exciting and more kinetic than it's ever been. So the combination of those things really just were fully explored on RAMA.
Yeah. Thank you. I tried, bro. I really fucking tried with that one. And I appreciate you saying that just about delivery. I feel like it's one of my greatest strengths, but also my worst enemy. Like, I feel like I just want everything to land exactly how it's supposed to land. But at the same time, there's still I feel like a lot of the magic happens when I kind of allow myself to lose control, like just enough,
Yeah.
There's this what's that like fucking who was it? I don't know. I'm not very good with like basketball shit, but like there's like a I think it was like there was like a game that like Kobe Bryant did where he like scored like a fucking ridiculous like shit ton of points, and it was like the most like points in a game that anyone has scored at that point or some shit like
Yep,
that.
against Toronto. Absolutely.
Toronto, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
see, that's why I'm glad I got y'all. But yeah, I heard what he said about that, where he was like, it can't be, you know, it's like he was like in the present as he was doing it, but he said that he couldn't be too in the present. You have to be thinking like a little bit ahead, or else you'll kind of lose control. So to maintain that sort of nature of improvisation along with precision, that's kind of the goal, I feel like, when it comes to my recording process at this point. And I feel like with Rama, like I think that's the closest I've ever come to hitting it exactly as I want it to be. So yeah, I appreciate you tapping into that and hearing that as someone who's toured my catalog up to this point. Like thank you for paying attention, you know.
Yeah, I mean, and you had one of the gods of intensity, which is what this is about, on Rama based sketch 185. That
sketch.
that
Should
guest verse on Moses, where he said, he yells something like I grew up on, with comic books and crack, and I was just like, holy shit. Like he has that ability. He had to fully utilize his voice to grab your attention, but say something that even if he didn't would grab your attention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's I mean, I feel like Sketch is a rapper, but Sketch is also just when he's going, he's like a force of nature. You really cannot, and he has so much control and intention. It's funny because like I met Sketch for the first time in like 2019 when Free Snacks and Malky were on tour together. And we played this show in New York, and I can't even remember who like put us on to him. Was like, yo, like you should play with this dude. I think our manager Francis suggested him. So I had never heard his music before then. You know, I wasn't like tapped into Tomorrow Kings back then. And excuse me. Yeah, like, you meet him and he doesn't talk exactly the way he raps, obviously, because who the fuck would want to speak to someone
Sure.
But he kind of talks the way he raps, where it's just he's rapid fire. He keeps going. He's an incredibly articulate person, and he says things very thoughtfully. It's just like kind of constantly like dropping gems and fucking just information. He really is truly a sponge of information, and even like at the bar, he had it fucking, just all these like sheets of paper. Like he writes it all out by hand. He just has these fucking dense ass sheets of paper. And, he went up there and he fucking, did his thing. And I just had never seen anything like it before in my fucking entire life. Like he's going, it's just like spit flying and shit. Fucking, there was a point where he was like, y'all just bear with me because I'm about to rap like 800 words in 2 minutes in a second. And I was just like, you can't do that though. Like no one's supposed to be able to do that. And he just fucking did. But yeah, I thought about, I didn't really want a lot of features on this project, which, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess it just felt really close to my heart. So it just felt like something I didn't want to. I felt like I wanted more control over everything. And that song, Moses, like that instrumental, I had it like kind of tucked away for a minute. So, but then I came back to it as I'm trying to finish the album, and I was just like, shit, what if I kind of extend this beat and start playing with the pieces of the sample that I hadn't played with before, and it just turned into a whole other half of the beat. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds tight, but I don't want to. It just felt like the shift was so like, I don't want to say drastic, but the shift was so I guess dramatic. The shift was like dramatic in a way that just the energy changed, which it just didn't make sense for it to be me going over it. So yeah, I hit up Sketch, and I don't know. It's funny because when you talk to him online through chats and shit, he's kind of the opposite of how he talks in real life. Where he's just like, yeah, that shit is dope. I'm down, and I'm just like, cool, yeah, good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I mean, he's always been a very he's very supportive of like he's not that much older than me, but just different generations in hip hop. I feel like hip hop
Yeah,
generations kind of go faster than people generations or whatever the fuck you call them. And
100%.
That makes sense.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep, yep.
and he's of a higher, an older generation than mine, so he's always been very supportive of our shit. And you know, hopefully we got him. He supposed to be featured on a Yuta Baby song coming on the next Yuta Baby project too, but we're still waiting on the verse. And he said something to me about it where he was like, "Yeah, y'all set a high bar, so you got to give me some time to like pull that shit together." And I was just like, "Really? Like us?" Oh, yeah, I don't know. I appreciate him a lot. He's like a very he's a he's intense, but he's a very kind person, you know, like truly genuinely like warm human, you know, like
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Steve Rifkin, who used to run Loud Records,
yeah,
uh,
I've heard that name before. I don't even,
he had this thing where he's on Nori's like uh, podcast, and he was like, and they were like, "What era is the best era? Is it 90 to 2000s?" And he's like, "You guys are talking about these 10 years? That's not an era in rap." And he said he was like, "An era in rap is 4 years,
mm-hmm.
4 years, and then
That's
there's."
accurate. Yeah. Now it might be even faster.
And I was like, 3 to 4 years makes a lot of sense. Like if you break down the 90s and those
Yeah,
chunks,
dude.
like that makes way more sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude. I feel like you kind of have to split. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like a lot of the time like the decades themselves get split in half. I feel like you're going even further with it though, even with like 3 to 4 years is probably fair. And I feel like it gets faster and faster as time goes on, you know, just because there's just more, you know, like
Right.
they didn't have the internet back then to explore and be inspired and influenced by so much more. And the more we're kind of constantly influencing each other, the more it can sort of like propagate from that.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
And I think when COVID happened, it was like, you know, everybody was able to sort of just incubate in a different way, and just all this shit was coming out. I was like, I feel like this era already is starting to come to a close and slide into like the next one, you know, which is
Oh,
Yeah,
pretty
that's real. That's real.
yeah,
you're right.
so
I mean, it's really intertwined with like technology and in terms of like COVID, like world
Mm,
events. Like
right.
I do think like world. I mean, and we've noticed it because we started the show right at the beginning of COVID, I believe.
absolutely.
Uh, and you can see how, particularly like when talking with the artist, how the music scene has evolved since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And now
Yep.
we're getting to a phase where people are, or I should say, artists are more comfortable like meeting up now and meeting in person. So now that's going to be like a whole different phase of the scene that emerges.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. And I feel like I mean, I wasn't as heavy with Twitter before COVID happened. Actually, I was more of like a Facebook nigga, but you know,
Mm,
different world. But yeah, I don't know. Twitter's cool because like it's just so many people from like different, you know, it's not really it doesn't necessarily have to be people like in your spatially in your network. It can be motherfuckers from like way the fuck over there, way the fuck over there.
Mhm.
And I think that's really cool how, you know, with I feel like a lot of people found time and space to make those connections, like those cross country, like national connections with different rappers and shit. And now we're at this point where like shit's open back up, so people get to like see each other like in person. You know, hopefully, I can't talk too much about this because it's not set in stone yet. But like probably gonna be touring in August, and like I'm really excited to like see niggas that I've only spoken with on the internet. Even on my last shit, like I met like, shout out fucking was Zatoichi Ban, Hassan.
oh
But
yeah.
I met him in Atlanta, and I had fucking no clue like Buddy even lived in Atlanta. And I was like,
That's
oh shit,
awesome.
came to the show. Um so yeah, I don't know, it's just cool. Like it's a beautiful, beautiful age, on the horizon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to Chicago in July, so hopefully I'll be able to catch you at that point. Yeah.
Let's go. I don't got any shows planned for July, but shit.
Working
We'll hit up
them.
something. Something will be going down, even if I don't have anything.
We're working out. But yeah. So, Kay, did you listen to Rama? How did you feel about
Yes.
Rama?
I liked it. I thought it had its own energy. I mean, I particularly like, for me, it started out kind of slow, but I think it,
I
started
appreciate the
picking up.
honesty here, though. Like that's the way it should be.
We keep it real.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but I think so. It started out kind of slow, and I didn't know. Like, I guess you could say, like, it's almost like you walk into a dark room and you're feeling around. You're trying to find your way. And I think for me, it started to pick up at Moses, but then I think at Calm Link is when everything really started to really settle in, and like
I
I
love
got
Calm Link so much. I'm so glad you mentioned that. That run Moses through Calm Link it begins a real special part of the record to me. Insecure is great.
Loving's good.
Yeah, I mean, Seafoam Green just isn't my taste. It's all. I mean, once you get through to that, I mean, I think that's the heart of the thing. Yeah. Albums have to unfurl, and they have to explain themselves to you. And then when you come back to them, you really love the parts you thought were slow initially, because you know what's coming. It's just wild like that. The mental trickery of loving albums.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that was kind of like the idea actually with the beginning of the album, was for it to sort of be kind of like just sort of like creeping through the darkness, and like literally like feeling around the room you're in to try and figure out like, where am I right now,
Yeah.
And, with like, True North but Fake, it's supposed to just be like, I don't know, like the intro is sort of like the lights are kind of coming up, and then like, True North but Fake, they just start fucking blinding, and the whole thing sort of is it undulates in a way that I think is important. I'm really I'm fucking obsessive about transitions between songs and albums.
Love it.
If I have an album that's taking too long to come out, that's why, is because I need this transition to be fucking perfect. At least in my own eyes, to be perfect. And I really Moses into Comlink was, I think, one of the ones that I was like, I was very happy with how that transitioned, it just felt
I mean, and
right.
You Da Baby, the last You Da Baby album was very cinematic, and it was very like you really increased in that direction, and I that's get nerdier, explore that fully, because the thing about Rama is it's still an album people talk about. It's still an album in Discords that people give love to. It's an album.
Okay, shit, I like that.
It's an album that people live with.
Yeah.
Right? Like they live with that album. And that's what good transitions can do for your album. Right? They make it something you can keep coming back to and keep running back and develop a relationship with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, that's definitely the thing that sets it apart for me when I'm listening to an album, and I come back not just to different songs on the album, but I come back to the album, and I can't really fuck with it unless I'm fucking with the whole. And in many ways, I feel like most of my work is that, like I'm not really that interested in just making. I don't really drop a lot of singles, even though like I might change that soon. Like what's yesterday's rule need not be tomorrow's rule, right? But that said, historically, like I don't really drop singles a lot. Like I'm more interested in like the whole, because I was, I went to school for creative writing, so I fuck with the narratives, like I wanted to I mean, it's like you don't really have like a favorite chapter in a book, right? Like, I mean, I guess some people do, but like you don't go back and be like, yeah, this chapter is like the best one, though all the other chapters aren't as good as this chapter. Like, like it's just it's the whole piece. Is you need the beginning and the end, and like everything that happens in between is like it's just so important. Like it they can't stand up by themselves, which is funny though, because it's funny y'all mentioned like Insecure, which in my opinion was like not. I mean, I like every song on the album, but in my opinion, it wasn't one of the strongest songs to me.
Oh no, I loved it.
Thank you. I mean, people seem to come back to that one
Yeah.
more than anyone else over the course of time. Like even early on, it wasn't necessarily like the favorite, but like now that like the album came out in October,
Mhm.
and that's the one that probably gets the most plays now, which is funny.
And it is funny how albums exist, because you might have a song on your album that's a bit of an outlier, that you're not sure about, and because it's an outlier, it provides like relief a little bit during the
Mhm.
journey of the album,
Yeah,
and then that outlier track becomes the track people love the most. You
yeah,
know, and that happens all the time.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
It's funny you say that too, because my partner actually at the time, you know, we actually recently broke up, but we're still cool. Fucking, she even said when I showed her the album, she was like, "I feel like Insecure doesn't belong on the album. It sounds like it's from a different album." And that was like one of
Yeah.
the critiques, which I thought was funny because I was like, "Nah, it's got to be there. It belongs there." So I'm glad I kept it.
You
But
know, when I think about it, it's because of the way you set the album up. I think Insecure is almost, when it hits it's a little bit surprising, I
right,
guess. So I guess that's kind of, for me, what made it like more memorable, because it was unexpected in terms of the flow of the record to that point.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to sort of exist as like a bright spot, you know, in
Yeah.
this like, you know, this kind of like not like a dark landscape, right? But it's like a storm in a lot of ways to me. You know, it's like just flashes of light and the sky is red and shit a lot of the time throughout. And I mean, that was like sort of the initial. I mean, the main meaning of the album, right? Like the sort of underlying theme to everything is navigating a world and a society that is kind of collapsing and breaking, but still having to do your everyday shit, like live your actual everyday life. Um, because you don't really have a choice but to keep doing that. Like you still gotta, you know, it's like if you find out like, you know, the world's whatever, the world's it's almost like the world's gonna end in like, you know, 3 years or whatever. I mean, you're still gonna go out, right? Like you're still gonna
Right.
do what you gotta do and hang out with your friends. And if your friend's having a breakdown, you gotta be there for them, right? Like you can't, it doesn't just stop. So yeah, I feel like that's a large part of the meaning of the album was just, you know, uh, you need shit like Insecure in that because that's still happening. It's still your life. Your life doesn't stop because everything's breaking. You know, there was this article I read from some dude. I think he was from like Burma, and it was like this civil war there like went down, and during COVID he wrote this article about how, you know, while that civil war happened, he's like in grad school and shit, you know, and there's like fucking burning bodies on the street and shit. And there's like fucking, you know, every once in a while, like a fucking missile will hit a building or some shit, and you'll walk by and that building's rubble, but he's on his way to class, you know, he's still going to fucking bars at night and shit. Like, yeah, I don't know. That to me is kind of terrifying but profound and almost like beautiful in a way. You know, it's like melancholic to still have to travel through all this like damaged places, but you know, still like searching for you know meaning and like what will get me right. You know, like end of the day. You know.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of outlier songs, it had me thinking. One of my weird, like I'm a Fiona Apple nut. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Davis about that shit. He loves Fiona Apple.
Yeah, I love Fiona Apple, and she has an album called "The Idler Wheel" from I think 2013.
Right.
And the last song on the album is "Hot Knife," and it's a very silly song. It's like a very kind of weird, silly 4-minute ending to the album, and it's always struck me as odd. And then I listened to like a Joni Mitchell album from 1971, "Court and Spark," and that ends with a song. It's called "Twisted" or something, and it's a very similarly jaunty, weird, like goofy end song from like one of the most dense lyrical people in music history. And I was like, wow, these two like really personal poetic lyricists both made that call on two of their biggest albums to just be like, yeah, you earned your way to the end. Let's have fun, you know.
Let's have a good time. Yeah.
And that's such a cool thing. I don't know. It's such a cool thing to hide that somewhere, you know, and have it be there for people. So yeah.
Yeah, this is very human, you know.
Right.
Like all of that shit, even in like your darkest moment or like the darkest periods of your life, you know, like you ever be having like a really fucking fucked up conversation with somebody about some really like heavy shit, and then somebody makes a joke and you both laugh at it, and then you go back to the heavy shit. Like,
I mean, I was at a funeral. One of my friends lost their child, and I was at a funeral with my people. We were all there to support him, and I was just making really weird jokes, and we all just were crying, crying, and like people were looking at us, and we were trying to like keep it hush hush, but like this is just how we are, you know. This is just how we deal with damage, you know. And that's, you know, it wouldn't have been us if it wasn't that, you know. It wouldn't have been us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
so I feel you on that totally. Yeah, intensity takes a lot out of you. And when you're performing, when you're creating art, it takes a lot out of you. You can't pump out a RAMA every couple months. It's something that you have to do and really put your whole heart into. Which is why we had to have you here to talk about this.
And what does RAMA mean? Because I couldn't find a definition for it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's like, well, so I mean, there's multiple definitions.
Okay.
I actually like, I mean, you know, Joshua Virtue is what I perform under, and it's you know, Joshua Virtue is my middle name and then my mom's maiden name, right? So I've played with names kind of for a lot of my life, and more recently I did change my you know, like just normal navigating throughout the world name to Rama. So like Rama is my name, you know. And that was like part of what it was, you know, you still have to, again, back to that theme of still having to process and discover yourself even through a collapsing society. Is like I came upon that name and landed on that name. But more literally what it means is, in Spanish it means branch, you know. And I have this whole thought and idea that I used to be a really spiritual person and a religious person or whatever, and that shit has not always served me well. I feel like I've been harmed and like abused a lot under the guise of like spiritual guidance and mentorship, like a lot of people, you know. This is why cults exist and shit in the first place. Not that I was in a cult, but it was close. I have this, you know, I kind of wanted to like separate myself from these high spiritual concepts and figure out what was left behind if I wasn't, you know, if I wasn't like, I don't know, maintaining like a label of like, this is the thing that I am, or all these just, I don't know, floating ideas and shit. So I came to this conclusion that, you know, everything that exists, like all molecules and matter and yada yada, can be viewed as a tree. And different cultures and spiritualities and religions, they just dress this tree up in different ornaments and decorate it. But once you take all that shit away, the tree is still there. So to me, the name Rama was, it was kind of like my idea that like, you know, I just am, like I just exist as like a branch of this tree, Rama meaning branch. So yeah, that's why I call myself that. It's kind of long winded. It's hard to like actually describe to people most of the time, but you know, it's I don't know. Rama is like,
I do too.
Yeah, it's like the wholeness of my being. It's like it encompasses Joshua Virtue is within Rama, you know, fucking Alex, which is like my birth name, that's within Rama, you know. I still go by those other names and shit, but like when you see me in the streets, call me Rama, because that's just that's at most accurate for whatever I'm doing at the time. Everything's in that, you know. So
it's a base point. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, more people should think about names in that way. As your main point. So, Kay, how did you feel about these 3 albums that we made you listen to?
Shit. So yeah, it's funny. I mean, all them shits have been on my radar. The only one that I had peeped of my own, like, I don't want to say volition, but just the only one I had gotten around to up to that point, up to this point, or up to the point that you asked me to do the interview, I should say, was Nacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
Which is ironically the one that I spent the least amount of time with in preparation.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, I mean, they're all drastically different pieces, which I fuck with a lot, you know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
which makes me really happy.
Yep.
But yeah,
definitely
I don't know.
spectrum.
What we say again?
I said it's definitely a spectrum of voices.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. The intensity spectrum, Kay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it interesting that you chose Kari Faux for intensity. Like, can you delve a little deeper into that? Because I feel like she has a very, I mean, there's definitely like intense moments and shit, like, you know. But I guess when I think intensity, that might not have been the word that I used. Like, what was your like? Why did you think of that?
Yeah, I'm into that. I'm into that. The so with me and Kari Faux has an intensity of craft.
Yeah,
You know,
that I agree with.
What was the song that she the song I always think about from her first is what is it called? It's called Rappers, Actors, and it's on Low Key Superstar.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, actors, rappers, and wrestlers.
For sure.
Actors, rappers, and wrestlers. And it's such a fucking awesome like concept. And it's so the hook is so dope. Like so she to me,
I'm terrible with like names of songs, you know.
Yeah.
So I fucking probably have no clue which one you mean, but I'll take your word for it.
Rappers and wrestlers. It's not long. It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds, but it's just so she's so unique because if she wants to convey something, she's gonna convey it, and it's gonna be in your face. The concept of the song is in your face. Her delivery might not be yelling or anything like that. But the intensity to me is in the craft. It's in what the song's about, who's on the song, the beat, the hook, the bridge, the first lines. Like she'll hit you in the face. Make sure you know what she's trying to get at. And some people are intense with delivery, but they're not really getting you anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they're just trying to get your attention. And she has something to do with your attention when she gets it.
Yeah, I mean, I what I like about the albums is it's really exploring, you know, the definition or the meaning of intensity, because there's different forms. There's not like one straight ahead form of intensity that you view things through. There's different lenses, and all of these, all 4 of the projects that we listen to, they're intense, but in like different ways and meanings of the word.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I felt like the fucking Kari Faux one. I mean, that was interesting that y'all put it like that, because I didn't really even. I mean, I guess when you stop and think about it, though, you know, even like the title in and of itself, like "Real Bitches Don't Die," like that's pretty fucking intense, you know. And I feel like she has a really powerful way of like coming out the fucking gate, like, you know, she's very good with the first couple of lines are just so specific and like hits you and gets you in. I think my favorite hook off the shit was probably on Dog. What she said? She said like, he a dog. That's why we do it raw. You know, I was like, God damn, like it's so hard. Like, she's so funny too.
I mean, and she, what was that line? She was like, "Used to blow my back out. I heard you doing crack now."
I heard you doing crack now.
And she made sure that somebody else would be like, "Oh my God, what did you just say?" Like that's her intensity. Her intensity is she is turned up. I think what I would say about the 3 albums that we're talking to, all these 3 people, I would love to share a bottle of hard liquor.
Man, I feel like sharing a bottle of hard liquor with Sunmundi would be like, oof,
I'd
be
love
rough. I hope he's not like that in real life. I hope he just like has a nice time. You know,
Oh, I would love it either way. So yeah, Sunmundi and Āthmaan, Midnight Oil, Estee Nack, Nacksaw Jim Duggan, and Real Bitches Don't Die from Kari Faux. All of those 3, their personalities are so big. But yeah, we're already talking Kari, so I have my notes up if you want to start on that.
Yeah, for sure. I had to come with notes too because I'm I'm not always very.
Oh, you have a whole notebook. Look at that.
It's just for reference. I probably won't look at it as much as I like want to, you know.
Because like you were talking about these first lines. Some of those lines, let me give you some lines from the first song, right?
Yeah.
First song, my auntie laid to rest, she knew me best. Before I leave my mortal coil, lather me in cocoa oil. I mean, wow, you know. So you've got imagery that stands out and pops, right? I mean, but you've also got real stuff, real emotions, real personal stuff being explored. And in a lot of ways, this album is a love letter to Southern rap and what it has done.
100.
And one of the things it's done is been able to merge the personal with the fun to listen to stuff and sneak that in. So she does a great job on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you know, I feel like with the line that you just spoke to, like there's this recurring theme across the album of family, you know?
Yep.
Like I can't even remember what the line was, but when she's in like riding with my cousin and my niece, you know?
Yep.
And I feel like so there's also this through line across this project of, you know, moving from LA to Houston, right? And I think that's kind of, in a lot of ways, the point of the album is just like to not compromise yourself for the industry. Because, you know, I mean, she's big now, but when she first kind of popped out, like she was big, you know? And I mean, I've been in that position of like, oh shit, y'all might be next up, you know? I'm going fucking go to Soho House and shit and like fucking, you know, dance like a monkey for these people. Like, it's a weird feeling. And I'm sure that I don't want to talk shit about LA because there's many sides to any city, but there's definitely an aspect of LA that is kind of fake, kind of you have to like wear a certain mask and appear a certain way. And, you know, in a lot of ways, the industry sometimes, depending on like what they're trying to mold you into, can be like kind of like anti-niggerish, you know? So it's like, she was like, you know what I'm saying? Because like, she was like, so much of what she's doing, I feel like, you know, that's the thing that makes the South, right? Is that it's uncompromising in its cultural aesthetic. And I think that's a large part of like what she was speaking to across the album is you know, I think she's from Little Rock, but
Little Rock, Arkansas, yeah.
Right. Yep. I looked that up. But like the whole like Houston thing is just, you know, this person like either she has family or she found family in Houston, and you know, she's still like she's not signed to a label or anything. She's just like making her craft, and it's uncompromising in its beauty. Yeah, I don't know. I really appreciate that. Like that's kind of the dream to be able to create in that way. Yeah, I don't know. It's fucking hard as fuck. Like
I mean, when we were reviewing mixtapes back in the day, me and you set up the site. We agreed that Houston was one of our favorite places because Houston didn't care what trend was popular at any point.
You know,
Houston's gonna do what Houston wants to do, regardless of whether you like it. Some of that has to do with the size of Texas and the fact that you can go platinum in Texas without much of an issue. Like, there's people that are like enormous names in Texas. Like nobody even spends any time in New York thinking about Slim Thug. And
Right.
Slim Thug does great, that
Yeah.
does great in Texas, and Little Kiki and all that stuff. So they have their own set of legends. They live their own cultural lives. So if she wanted to get away from the pressure, industry pressure, Houston's not a bad place to go.
Yeah. And
Because
she
they
like
won't sell.
paints it, yeah, and she like paints it almost as like this protective space,
Yep.
just like get away from like anything like anyone that was like really hurting her and harming her, you know. And it's like it just, I mean, I can't speak for her, obviously. Like, I mean, 'cause I don't know the full intent behind the album, but it's like, she came there to like reset, get away, like fuck, like who am I really? Like let me like start over, you know.
It's a great overview.
Yeah,
I
it's
love that.
beautiful.
Hey, do you have any moments on it that shocked you at all?
Shit, let me go to my.
I mean,
Oh,
shocked me. Not really shocked me. I mean, I was just really, for me, this was like the fun. I didn't realize I was gonna have so much fun listening to it. This is the most fun, I've had listening to an album this year, I think.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I think because she has the right blend of, first of all, she's very skilled, but at the same time she's not taking herself too seriously, but yet she's taking herself a little bit seriously as well.
Yep.
So it just comes off really fun. But let me see. I think I did like I liked Gemini Plus,
Ooh,
and then the
yeah.
dog,
Love that
the
George.
dog song was the one that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like only there aren't a lot of rappers that could pull off the dog song and not sound cheesy.
Yeah. So I mean, I have notes on all the songs. What I ended up doing, Kay knows this, is I just pull up, I listen to it, and I write a note for each song.
Mm-hmm.
And my note for Dog was Devin is usually goofy or as of recent years thoughtful, reflective, but when he aims to get nasty, he goes to another level.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to get wild, and he rose to that occasion. I wrote, I like this one, unforgettable. Reminds me of that Too Short Little Kim song, Call Me, back in the 90s. But yeah, she did. And I think elsewhere in my notes, I kind of wrote the idea that this is an album that has amazing features. Like,
Oh man,
features that people come off really well. Maybe it was the White Caprice song that I wrote this note on.
Gangsta Boo.
Yeah, so Gangsta Boo sounds amazing. These features really pop because the song concepts are great. The hooks are ill. The beats are wonderful.
Yeah.
Everything is set up for the feature to sound great. And White Caprice might be my favorite hook on the album. But it's does that make sense as a reading of why the guests are doing so well on this? Joshua Virgin?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, they're not just inserted, everyone like has their place in a way that I think is important. And it's kind of funny too, because it's almost like it hits like these different corners, of different places in the South, right? Gangsta Boo, like Memphis, fucking
Yep.
I think Devin the Dude's he's out of Houston, I think, though,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Houston.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think Big Crit. Where's Big Crit from?
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yo, the Big Crit fucking feature,
Yep.
I thought was so dope.
Yep.
In that I feel like Crit kind of did the same shit that Kari Faux is sort of doing on this album, right? Not compromising for the industry, or at least I like to believe. Like, I don't really know why Big Crit kind of like went under the radar, because he was like about to pop, like when he first popped up, and then he sort of was, you don't hear about him as much unless you like a fucking head, or like you really fuck with him like that. Like, I mean, I was like fucking with Big Crit mixtapes like way back in the day,
Right. No, I mean, he said, like, he's like, dude, like my label debut, I had BB King on there, and I had a Spike Lee directed video, like,
right,
and people still are talking about other things. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's I don't know. I just thought that it was cool to see him like taking that role and also not talking about that at all on the
Yeah.
fucking his verses. It's fun, you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
classic shit. It's like it's tight. But yeah, I don't know. I also thought it was kind of funny that one dude, Jazz Cartier, right? Which was maybe
Love it.
probably my favorite feature actually on the album. Like that
Me
shit
and
hit.
you were locked in.
You want to
Funny
talk about
angles.
delivery, you know, and just being fucking funny, bro. Like,
It's like, yeah, it was it in the strip club looking for some booty and some wings.
who is this man? That's what's funny too, because like when he first popped up, like I'm not familiar with this dude. So when somebody comes out with a feature like that, it was like the first time I heard a fucking Ice Cold Bishop on some shit, you know, and I was just like,
Right. That's a
what the fuck
great
is
shit.
that?
Who
Like,
is that?
it was tight. But he's from like Canada too. I looked up, so
I love it.
you know, it's kind of funny that even in there, like she found somebody who's like as far away as you could possibly get from the South, but still was able to like capture and pay respect to those sensibilities in the song too. Like it's a very intentionally crafted album, you know.
Oh man,
Um,
and so to me, if like if you have one killer feature, that's great, and you have two killer features, that's great, but then you have like 4, 5, 6, and the features
yeah,
are all great.
they all
At
have
that
their
point,
place.
at that point, I'm giving credit to the primary artist, right? And saying, look, that this table's being set so people can succeed, right?
Right.
This is a good program. You know, the beats by Faux. Faux does most of these beats.
Okay.
Oh,
And they have a real relationship here. This album has a sound, right? It has a
Yeah.
very specific sound, and that sound isn't compromised. It's built on throughout the album, in my opinion.
Yeah.
My
Yeah, you were talking
favorite,
about like transitions and shit, you know? Like
yeah.
everything was
Oh,
very seamless. I mean, I think my favorite one was shit, I wrote it down too. Fucking damn, I can't I think it was like it wasn't dog into yeah, it was like dog into white capris.
oof,
Like that shit was so fucking just you know, like I
yeah.
love shit like that where it's like you're not even sure that the last song ended, you know. You slide into the next one. It's like that
Oh, and I think my favorite beat on the album is "Past Life."
mm,
Uh, it's possibly my second favorite song. But she sings her ass off on that. And I mean, one of the things I noted was if you're going to sing and rap, you need to have serious personality and a grounded perspective that we can follow.
interesting.
Because if you can sing real well and you can rap real well, and you're pulling yourself in 100 directions, you're less cohesive than a great rapper. You're less cohesive than a great singer, right? Because a great singer giving me a great album,
Yeah.
I know what I'm getting, right? But
Yeah.
if you have all those skill sets running, you kind of have to focus a little bit more because you have more tools to organize. If that makes sense.
And you have choices. Like you wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer in a nail. You know what I mean? So if you have like a extensive toolbox, it becomes not only, you know, how you use the tools, but do you have the discernment when to use the tools in the right situation. So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's I mean like speaking to my own experience and like I feel like early on I used to be like, yo, I'm trying to be like a triple threat. I want to be like sing and rap and fucking, you know, poetry and all that shit. And I don't think I really understood that that was what I was getting wrong, you know, until like y'all actually just described it right now. And yeah, to be able to like carry like that personality between the rap and the singing, like, and bridge that gap. I mean, I want to say there's not a lot of artists who can really do that, you know? I suppose there are, but those are just the ones that we heard, right? Like all the rest got lost in the fucking wave of art that's, you know, the last like 20 years since the internet became like how you do everything. And she can just do it very seamlessly.
Yeah,
Like the delivery, like even like the delivery across both is just so like it's the same, you know, it's like the same like softness across the board. Like the same like color, if that makes sense.
yes.
Like
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, what I was thinking about, Kay, when we're talking about needing to focus your tools, right? My favorite Ty Dolla Sign album is Free TC from 2015.
Yeah, it was a great one.
And to me, it's never been the same, right? Because Free TC, I know exactly what that's about, right? And he knew exactly what that was about, right? And so the rest of his albums have been kind of a grab bag of big industry people that owe him a song because he did a song for them. And
Mhm.
like, and it hasn't been cohesive and coherent, right? So Kari has that talent to be able to just organize these things, and all of the projects that I've heard that have her name on it mean something.
Yeah.
And they're fun too. Like
Yeah.
you don't sacrifice any fun.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, you know, because she does the same thing that y'all are speaking to with rapping and singing, and she also does it with these little like I don't know, for lack of a better term right now. I think it's a good term for the like almost like micro hooks, right? Like
Yes,
just
bridges.
intersperse
Yeah.
throughout the songs, you know.
Mhm.
Like yeah, like they're bridges, you know, but like they also like they don't necessarily like. I mean, that's like it's a hella bridges, you know. It's like fucking Davenport bridges,
Yep.
you know, it's
Yep.
fucking everywhere. And like, I really admire that. Just you know, the ability like to know like, no, we need something here. Like we need something to fill this space instead of just like letting it stand on itself. Which I think people sometimes feel almost they're arrogant in that they believe that you know their raps are enough to maintain somebody's attention across this whole song. Like I don't have to change anything up, which people can do and should do. You know, like it can be bars, 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 bars if you want it to, but if you want it to be fun, like it's not gonna work like that. You know, like you have
Yeah.
to continue to flip it on a motherfucker. Like you have to like a board game is fun because it's constantly changing. You know,
I'm with you. Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like she does such a good job of that, and like not being afraid to fuck with um uh like like you know like effects and shit over her voice in certain places, and then the whole
Yeah.
chanting aspect with like the you know there are certain points in the album where it's like she just like stacks like a bunch of like fucking like bad bitches like you know this is chanting like
Yeah.
the same phrases.
Chanting. Yep,
And
absolutely.
it sounds
Yep.
like it's like jump rope. You know what I mean? Like it has like this
Yep.
inherent fucking I don't know. It's like it feels like the real world, you know. Like
Yeah.
it takes you back down to earth, like with the way she
It has
carries
a
it.
playground feeling to it.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, I think that's awesome. And Kay, I think what we talked about. What about this is intense? The first thing I thought of was Me First. Me First it's not aggressively delivered. It's kind of delivered in a hushed tone.
Mhm.
But if you listen to what she's saying, it's like it's very boldly, intensely like, look, you know, this is me. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And leads into this chanting in the background, like you said, that comes in on the hook. Yeah, to me, that's a very
For me, like with the intensity in regards to Kari, I interpret it as intensity of sincerity. Like there's a sincerity about her.
Mhm.
Yep.
Like you know, how do I say this? Because she reminded me a lot of Meg the Stallion in terms of like the flow, but there's like a sincerity about Kari that's a little bit more. It's more intense.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I think of not Meg the Stallion. What was her Tina Snow? Was that her alter ego?
Yeah, Tina Snow.
At the beginning? Yeah. So there was like it reminded me a lot of that, almost like that swag rapping, but there was an intensity of sincerity to it.
Right.
And you know, she intertwined like that in terms of, you know, the swag rapping and the boasting, but there was a lot of personality and there was a lot of, you know, personal things and like you said, family aspect as well into it. And she intertwined that and mixed it all together and made like this really like potent album. in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But crazy cocktail.
And I think one of the things that's to build on your point, Kay, like every aspect of what she's doing, whether it's effects on the voice or mini hooks, they all still represent her and her perspective.
Mhm.
Nothing's forced, right?
Right.
But she is one of those people who, it's a weird comparison for some folks, but like Namir Blade. Namir Blade is one of those people who isn't really solely a rapper, isn't really solely a singer, produces his own stuff, and like doesn't really care about definitions, and is much more about like, as a whole artist, I gave you a badass album, enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
And I
I
think
don't think I know that name actually.
yeah, that's
Oh,
a
man.
Kari Faux. That's what I think she is as well. There's a lot of singing, there's a lot of rapping. I don't think she would care about the distinction. I think
Right.
she's basically like, I'm giving you dope albums, enjoy that.
Right.
And it's just a new way of thinking from, you know, the past where it was very bound in these solid, rigid definitions.
Right. I mean, in a way, it's like she's, I mean, she's a vocalist,
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
She's not a rapper, she's not a singer. Like she's a vocalist. Her voice is her shit, and that's whatever she needs to do with it to get her point across. She does that, and even like going off that too, I feel like that's the thing that a lot of rappers. I mean, again, like if I'm critiquing some shit, it's probably something that I also feel like about my own shit, where
Yeah.
a lot of rappers nowadays they just want to say the headiest shit possible, right? The most like interesting, like weird shit you can say. Everybody kind of wants to be like this abstract nigga, which is fine. And I really, really, really fuck with that, right? Because obviously I'm on the same shit, like, 60, 70% of the time.
Mhm.
But it's hard actually to make to do something that's both well written and easily digestible, you know?
Yep.
She's able to be conversational and personable in this way that you don't have to think twice about what anything meant, really, And people act like that shit is easy to do, but that's
No.
hard to do in a way that can really arrest somebody's attention in the way that she does,
Yeah.
None of that
Yeah.
stuff with, like, delivery, like how is it being said, how does it pull together? Like it's the whole picture. Like I feel like that she's constantly looking at things from this bird's eye view of like, what is this whole thing gonna be? Like what is it all gonna like mean together in the end,
Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like she operates across these tracks like a not like a rapper who's like the centerpiece of everything, really. Like she's a tool to the intention being created, to the main goal that the song is achieving. Yeah. And people don't do that all the time, not anymore, I don't know. I feel like everybody's trying to be like,
Yeah. It's
again, I
almost
love
like it's almost like the difference between an actor and an actor director.
right.
Where like
Good point.
the actor director is trying to like obviously nail their scene, nail their character, but for the movie to work.
Right.
And
Not to be like the hottest nigga on set,
Exactly. So it's not a go for mine attitude anymore. And so to your point, I think what most makes me think of that is the end of this album. Drunk Words, Sober Thoughts into Borrowed Time. My notes, I mean, so we talked about lines, right? Her first verse on Drunk Words, Sober Thoughts is so hard. She says, "This is for my gangsta bitches that need forehead kisses."
Yeah, I remember that one. That shit.
Oh,
good.
Like,
yeah.
So I wrote it here. She seems like an absolutely fascinating person. She gives us sparse moments on this album where she strips away the thick, rich environment and stands naked on the track. And the end of this song is just beautiful. And then you go Borrowed Time, where I wrote here, she pulled the universe together and guided this to its end. with her voice. I just hope they're proud of me looking down at me from the sky. And she says it in this just very sincere way that really, like, you know exactly what the album's about.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I really like that one a lot. Like Borrowed Time, I think, was one of the ones that just kind of hit me the most, you know?
Yep.
You know, I think the thing that kind of carried me the most with that one too was even like she says some shit like, you know, like even if this doesn't cut through, like at least I tried.
Yes.
Like where it's just this sort of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not release, but it's almost like a submission to, like, you know, just the movement of everything that is. Like I acted as much as was possible for me, and the rest is just gonna move of its own accord, and I'm okay with that, you know. Especially with the whole like escaping from the industry type shit, and like allowing herself to be like vulnerable, not just because I mean, you know, she's done that like on other albums for sure, but in this context, I feel like it has more meaning because this album is probably the most comfortable. I feel like I've heard her the most comfortable in her like culture. You know what I mean? I don't want to say that she was. I don't want to say she was like putting on a mask in like different ones, but this one is it's just so South. You know what I'm saying? Like
It's so awesome. It's so awesome.
I never heard her like this. Not to this extent, you know, like it definitely was always been bleeding through, but like here it's just 100%. And she was like, fuck it, like I'm not gonna compromise any of that selfhood or my culture for any of this shit, and it's still gonna be dope as fuck, and you're gonna enjoy it. And if you didn't, like, that's not really important, you know?
Right. And it's totally different sounding from Low Key Superstar, right? Like the talent is still the talent, but like no one's gonna listen to this and go, "Oh, you just did Low Key Superstar in a different way."
No, not at all.
It's totally different, and you have to give her credit for that. It's awesome. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Anything else that we haven't talked about, Kay, that we should?
No.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting thing because to me, she's real different from someone like Estee Nack. Because Nack has already dropped 3 projects this
year.
Yeah. And this Kari found like her last album was 2021, you know. So she takes time to develop this stuff. It's a different approach. Nacksaw Jim Duggan. Hey,
ridiculous.
What's your favorite ad lib? What's your favorite?
I mean, so the order I listened to RAMA first. I listened to Kari second, Midnight Oil third, and then Nacksaw Jim Duggan.
Finished it with Nacksaw. Whoa.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of him before. So and I didn't realize. So I'm guessing he was with Griselda. He's associated with Griselda.
Griselda album. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it was interesting, is what I'll say. It was interesting. It was like it was the perfect. I think it was the best. It was the best way to end the trip, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have wanted to end it with Midnight Oil. But so I thought there was some energy to it. I did like I'm not familiar with wrestling, so I did like that. You know, he got the actual wrestler that he was referencing.
Yep.
But it was okay to me. It was solid.
It's so I think this is designed so Nack is a volume puncher. You know, I think I said that in the breakdown that Nack goes at a speed that is pretty awesome. And there was one of the songs where I felt like he said that his penis was going to space. we made history. We made history. He said that his penis was going to space.
God.
And I went to click on the Genius lyrics, and they were just question marks. They were just like this dude. I don't know what this dude is saying. I don't know what this dude is saying. He's going too fast.
It's so good.
Not all of it's in English. I don't even know what this dude is saying. Like he's like that. This album's intention, in my mind, is to drown you in Estee Nack.
Yeah.
It's 51 minutes and 51 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
He's trying to drown you in Estee Nack and make you like, who is this dude? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this was the longest project of the four as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, easy. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's definitely there's a lot. There's a lot of good stuff. He is weird though, because there is like, I don't know. Nack is smarter than he appears to be. Right? He has a very goonish attitude and a like delivery, right? He really enjoys being salacious. And there's lots of lines I wrote down that will prove it. But he's also very thoughtful and he's very funny.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of dark humor going on throughout the album. That is just, it hits you out of nowhere, and it gives me the giggles. It's great.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think he's just street as fuck, you know?
Yep.
I think he appear like, not that you like meant it this way. I think he appears incredibly intelligent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that dude would hustle me out of my fucking shoes while I was walking in them, you know? And like, I don't know. I feel like I really fuck with those. I really fuck with what, I mean, you know, we all have our issues with Griselda, right? But I really fuck with like what they aim to do in terms of just like lifting these dudes who have this like fucking like power flow up, you know? He's like, it's funny that, you know, it's like Nacksaw, Jim Duggan, like, you know, Hacksaw and shit. Like that dude like raps like a power tool, you know? It's absurd. He like will break a beat, you know? He'll like create his like almost like coerce his own flow into a beat where it maybe doesn't belong. Like it's just funny to me because like there's so many songs where I feel like just like you're almost like not supposed to be here, right? Like he just literally like cuts into it. And I don't know, it's funny because I feel like he's maybe the most, maybe not the most, but out of all the dudes at Griselda right now, you know, I mean, he's a rapper's rapper, but he's just fucking entirely like coloring outside the lines, which is like my favorite thing. And I think those are the ones, the rappers from Griselda that I fuck with the most on that level, you know? Like, I feel like Gun does that shit too. And those are the ones who I feel like have more longevity ultimately, because as much as I fuck with like, say, like Conway and Benny, you know, it got a little stale after a while. Like, I'm not that excited when a Benny or a Conway project drops anymore. And early on, I was really excited. But I feel like they don't, stylistically, they just don't, they might not, I don't know, maybe Conway has that kind of longevity, but sometimes, you know, it falls flat to me. You know, I wasn't like the biggest fan of like Lulu even, you know, which is like an Alchemist produced album, which
it gets forgotten about a lot.
It does, because like it's because it's all right. Honestly, it's like it's fine. There's some really good joints out there, but it's not the craziest shit. And I feel like Estee Nack is, you know, stylistically, he's doing something where like you'll be talking about that in a few years, and you can come back and like dissect that shit in a different way, because he's not, you know, he can't. It's just, it doesn't have a there's not a line, you know, it just does what it fucking wants to do. It's almost it's almost an anti-flow, you know? It's like hits where it's supposed to. It's just fucking weird as shit. Like,
Yeah, it's like someone hitting a speed bag. It's just
yeah, you know,
yeah.
like there's a rhythm, but like, is there, you know?
Yeah. It's I would say like the interesting part of this, my first read on this K, because I've digested a lot of Estee Nack. The the album with V Don is my favorite rap, right?
Yeah,
V
I actually haven't
Don
heard that yet. I'm
V
not like
Don
crazy
makes
familiar with this shit. I've heard like a couple at the mini mansion dust joints, you know. Um,
yeah.
but
They-
and I heard this one, and what was that? Well, I mean, this wasn't an Estee Nack album, obviously, but it almost was. Like, what was the shit that fucking West Side Gun put out like last year? It was like
Oh right, no, it was one of the yeah,
it was his
Like,
album, but like there was so much
yeah,
Estee Nack on it, like it almost
yeah.
was also an Estee
Did that.
Nack.
He does that.
Mm.
I would say that one's awesome. V Don makes people sound awesome over these like luxury beats, and it's awesome. He delivered a mini mansion dust like collaboration album that's produced by his guy, Mr. Rose, who produces most of his stuff.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's really well done.
Oh,
And
my bad.
really,
You going back to you talking about Brap, right?
yeah. But these are the other projects as well. I would say my first read when I listened to Nacksaw Jim Duggan was, oh shit, they gave him the boring starter pack of Griselda beats, and Nack was like, "You're not losing the game for me. This is my shot. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you give
No
me."
shit.
If you think about this, so think about this. We have for this show, we have heard 4 albums, right?
Right.
Rama, Midnight Oil, Real Bitches Don't Die, and Nacksaw Jim Duggan. Which is the worst produced album?
You would say Nacksaw?
Yep.
No shit. I
Yep.
mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of a fucking sucker though for them Griselda beats, bro. Like
I
I'll
think
take
they're
that
pretty
fucking.
basic.
They've used that same fucking like boom bap like drum break and like gotta be like hundreds of songs, and every time I'm like, damn, that's a fucking beat. Like,
Yeah.
every time. Somebody
Yeah.
else was talking that shit about that same shit on like Twitter recently. Fucking what's his Unruly.
Unruly, yeah, he killed
Unruly
that
was talking
shit.
about this shit. It's like
Yeah.
Griselda keeps doing the same beat over and over, and I was just like, it still
Yeah,
hits. I don't know. Like
these are very sleepy Denny LaFleur beats that are just like a lot of like
it's funny.
Crucial the Guillotine beats that are like meh, but like Nack was like, this is my shot. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like I'm going for 40, 10, and 9. Like
right.
I
it
don't
doesn't matter. He lifts them up, you know.
Yeah. So that's why to me this is such an impressive performance, because he's like, all right, you gave me these, I'll take these, but I'm taking them to another level. He stretches his voice even more than usual into these melodic sing-songy things that are like really out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I still feel like that, to be honest.
I love how like they still do like the Griselda is some of the only niggas who will do like, I'm gonna sing on this track, but like really bad, you know, and you're gonna like
yeah, they like that.
So funny. I love when niggas do that so bad. Like
oh man. I love these song titles, by the way.
Yeah, I gotta check this shit again. He's good with those too.
Nackman Coltrane, old Nack Donald had a farm. I mean, come on.
And it's weird, like I read them all in his voice, you know, like his persona is just permeating fucking everything.
It does. It really does.
Like all the caps, like so it sounds like.
Kay, did you have a peak persona moment where you were like, "This guy's nuts"? Like, what are you going?
Okay, let me pull up the track listing. I liked what is it? Fetty Guerrero.
Fetty Guerrero. That's awesome.
Fetty Guerrero. I think even the green cellophane. I think those two.
Yeah. Green cellophane doesn't get talked about enough. I think a lot of people are talking about Angel Dior because that is the one that they think is the most experimental for his sing-song flow. But to me, Green Cellophane is way crazier. It has a real fuzzy, weird beat. On that song, I think this is why Kay loves it. On the song, Nack says, "The way shorty fuck, it can make me paint the ceiling."
I heard that one.
Yeah.
That was one of the words like you be driving in your car and they'll say this and you're like, that's good.
Yeah, that was that level.
He's so nasty.
So it's a real wild thing. My favorite Persona moment, it's a very small moment at the end that just made me smile very deeply. So we've talked about we had, I think it was last year, we had Steel Tip Dove and Mighty Healthy talking about, trends in production for the year. And we talked about Conductor Williams and the Conductor Williams tag. The Conductor We Have a Problem thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was hitting it like 15 times in a track, just to mess with people. And there's a point at the end of Conductor We Have a Problem where he starts hitting the conductor tags again. And Nack kind of says, "We ain't got no motherfucking problem." This is such an amazing meeting of strong-willed performers. Like, Conductor is unwilling to stop hitting the tag, and then like Estee Nack is engaged in conversation with it, and naming the song after it. Like, it's unbelievable. So cool.
Yeah. And I think that's always going to be the thing that Griselda does the best, right? It's just curation, like we pull together for this whole shit. And I don't know, too much, like, cause that's the whole shit with the ad libs, right? Like nobody turns their ad libs up that high ever, except for them. And it's just too much. It's supposed to be too much,
Yep.
And like you can't hear the lyrics because some people going, like you're not supposed to hear them. Like it doesn't matter. I just think it's kind of even like speaking back to like fucking Kari Faux and shit, it's uncompromising. Like it's not you're gonna listen to this shit and you're gonna fucking like it. This is what we made, it doesn't. Yeah, I feel like even like across like my own career, like that's something that I've worried about too, right? It's like, damn, like I don't know, are they gonna get this? Is this too much in like my own neck of the woods or whatever? Can they hear my lyrics on this shit? And I'll go back and hear something that I created like years ago and just be like, damn, like I should have turned that one shit up, even though it was kind of fucking up the mix a little bit, push into to the red. And I just looked at the red, but I didn't think about how it sounded and how it felt and like what the fuck I was trying to do. And they can do that in a way that I think no one else has really been able to. And not that no one else has been able to, but they do it in a very special way. I don't know, it's kind of funny. I'm not like crazy about Griselda lately though, just because like while the like fucking whole like imagery thing, it's just been like I don't know. There's just been like a lot of like discourse about that shit recently, and I'm just like, man, like yeah, it is weird, But
the Hitler stuff,
Hitler shit, it's just like, what are we doing, y'all? Like, come on, man. It just gets like tired. It's just like, and I feel like that's kind of a funny thing too. Like, I'll go back and like listen to a fucking West Side Gun album, and like I don't know, have you ever been in public listening to a fucking West Side Gun album and like you don't want anyone to see your phone?
Yeah.
What that shit says. It's like that's just weird, dude. Like I don't know. Like I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice not bringing up like.
No, that's fair. I mean, I don't really deal with my whole thing has been, not only am I Jewish and I'm not a big Hitler guy,
I'm not a big.
I'm not a big Hitler guy. If you got a problem, put it in the comments. It's my thing. I'm just not big into him. I'm not pro. So I would say so aside from that, just in terms of West Side Gun's career, I think his best work has been away from those albums. I Got One is great. The Paris album is great.
Right. Supreme Blondell is probably my favorite West Side Gun joint, actually.
Right. So like to me, I don't even I can't even name which one of those would be my favorite, and I've heard so many of them. You know, I don't. They don't really stay with me or stick like his other work. So I'm cool to cut it out and not. It doesn't hurt me.
I
Um,
mean, you know, everybody's on dirt somewhere. If someone's not proclaiming their fucking like, you know, not to even say it, I don't even know that fucking Gunn's got like. I don't think he's got Nazi ties, but he's certainly got anti-Semitic ties. Like that's for sure. Even if he's not, if it's just like a shock thing, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
like,
he certainly
you know,
likes gross
it
things or
seems to
offensive
appear that
things.
it's a shock thing, but like
Yeah,
regardless, there's definitely a level of irresponsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
fucking Big Flowers was talking about that shit recently. Or it's just like, you know,
yep,
what are we doing? Like you've made it to this level, and you're still kind of like pushing this idea. You know,
yep,
and
yep,
you know,
yep.
it's like it was. I mean, maybe it was like all cute and shit before, but like now it's like I don't know. You literally don't have to do it like you want. But I mean, I don't know. Everybody's on some kind of fucking dirt, right? Like the bigger you get, the more dirt that you uncover about these niggas. So it's like
I
it's
mean,
hard.
and
To really...
beyond all of that, because I think that stuff can be argued. But let me tell you this:
Mm.
if the clips were giving us a Lord willing 10, we would be like, nah, man, move on. Like, I love Lord willing, but man,
Just on
Lord
like
willing,
just
like
like on an artistic level, yeah, for sure.
just on an artistic level, like I like you to move on.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, I know I'm Jewish and I don't like Hitler, and that's where we disagree. But you know, uh, but whether or not you love Hitler, West Side Gun, I think it's about time to move on.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
yeah.
Estee Nack, you know what I'm saying?
But no, that
All
that
right.
shocking stuff comes into this because Tucker Carlson is a big part of this. The
Yo,
interview with
I was wondering about that, and that shit did weird me the fuck out. Like, how are we gonna open up an album with Tucker Carlson? That shit was so wonky and off to me. I was like, what are we doing
this
right
shit
now?
is weird, but it is par for the course of Griselda of being like, oh, y'all don't like this guy? Ha ha ha! He starts the album and finishes.
I don't know. I mean, I do like the idea of like repurposing something that's like kind of hateful and like turning it into something like useful for
Yeah.
artistry, but I don't really know that that's what they meant to do. I think they were you're Tucker Carlson talking about fucking
Getting a lot of credit, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
uh,
I think they genuinely thought it was funny to have Tucker's voice here with Nack. And it was, but I like one of the things I like about this album, K, is that it is very Dominican, you know,
Mhm.
and it's
it
all
is.
about that, and that there's sounds, there's kind of salsa sounds that creep in, and it's just very cool to have that be front and center on his Griselda debut. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that he like, yeah, just even the fact that he came out the gate fucking speaking Spanish, like the first like 2 lines on the album, I think, are like in Spanish or maybe even more. And I was like, that's dope, you know, to just like kind of like come forward with your fucking culture like out the gate like that instead of like trying to make it something that everybody could understand, you know, especially because like rappers slave so much over their first like couple of bars. Like, how am I going to grab people's attention, grab as many people as possible's attention? He was like, nah, like I'm enough, you know, and it did like hold my attention. You know?
And so, and the cover, K, so Hacksaw Jim Duggan as a wrestler always brought the American flag to the ring. The flag in that picture is the Dominican flag.
I did like the cover. Great cover.
Yeah. So the thing, so we talk about pros and cons a lot, right? Different styles of doing hip hop, different pros and cons. The pro for Nack is that when you give as much as Nack does, when you put out as much as Nack does, he's always in the zone. So if you heard him first as a guest feature on Don't Go Outside by Unruly and Clown Cat, you might fall in love with him because he killed that verse, right? But, you know, if you first heard him on, West Side Gun's album, then you might fall in love with him there because he killed that verse. You know, like his sword is always sharp.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of artist like Kari Faux is, she will fall out of the spotlight for a couple of years.
Right. I see what you're saying.
To lock yourself in a room, get your transitions right, get your album the way you want it, you'll withdraw. And when you do that, you run the risk of your sword not being sharp, you not being outside, you know?
Right.
So it's, yeah, Nack's on the other side of that balance sheet, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like on the other hand, like the con though, right, would be that like, you know, you have all these projects and it's hard for motherfuckers to follow, you know? And
Real shit.
that shit
That's
gets
real
lost
shit.
behind too, right? Like how many fucking like Estee Nack albums have like, you know, I mean, I'm just one person, like what the fuck I think maybe doesn't matter, but like how many Estee Nack albums have I not heard, you know? That could have been the one if we like powered more like into just that one. I don't know. Yeah, I have a really funny relationship with because I used to be all about that like rapid fire as many projects as possible a year now thing. And I think I found that there's ways to keep your sword sharp without just pumping out more and more albums, right? Even if that might mean like doing hella features, you know, which like certain people definitely do and stay doing. But I mean, I agree that like the sheer like quantity at which Estee Nack is releasing work is able to like maintain his artistry and like progress his artistry in a way that like maybe a lot of people aren't able to experience, you know? Like I feel like for me it's I just wish that I could be doing that. I had time to do what the fuck he was doing and just keep
right.
You know, like really like if I could just put out like just keep making shit and keep putting out albums and stop worrying about like whether it's gonna be promo or residual or yada yada. Like that dude's like he's so outside that like he's got people behind him regardless of anything. And then you know he's got the Griselda connect and shit too. So he can do that, right? So I see what you're saying. Like it's definitely like for someone like him, it probably stays a pro. But yeah, I mean, for his camp at least, you know, but for an outsider like me looking in, like there's so many Estee Nack albums I haven't heard because there's just too many of them.
Yeah, I was lucky. I mean, in the RMPP Discord, shout out to Rohan.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I am now in on Estee Nack. I have now understood what is great.
It's crazy.
This was before Nacksaw. This was like,
yeah,
I kind of reevaluated. I was like, give me the Nack albums I need to hear. And they were able to list off here's the specific ones. But you need a guy. You need a guy for Nack. You can't just start, you know, it's just too much. There's a lot.
Right.
But it's interesting because he's like the con, of course, is that if you put out that much at that clip, you're gonna put out a lot of stuff that just isn't classic necessarily, that isn't like all-time legacy stuff.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. If you stay in your zone and you get better in your zone, you're probably going to hit a few that are just brilliant, high level. Just because your comfort level is at its peak, your talent's at its peak, your circle is good and they're developing and getting better, and you probably hit one or two just perfect. But you're going to have a lot of okay or interesting but not there, or a couple songs away, you know, stuff, and he just lives through that, pushes through it, is like on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difficulty is because I think of like a visual artist, like a painter or something, like maybe Picasso. You know what I mean? Like Picasso created thousands of works, but at the end of the day, they were able, as a, you know, as an audience, as a public, we're able to distinguish like his most important ones, his masterpieces, from like his sketches or the ones where he was just trying to work ideas out.
Right.
So if you're a rapper and artist, if you're going to release a lot of material, you have to figure out a way to distinguish between, okay, these are just projects where I'm sharpening my tools or where I'm having fun, and these are the projects where, like, you know, I'm really trying to say something, or projects that I deem to be important.
Right.
And the risk a lot of rappers do when with this model is, you know, you're releasing everything, but there's no distinguishing aspects between the projects. So then when you release something that you feel is important, everyone's like, oh, it's just another project from him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they don't take it seriously, or they ignore it, and you end
Right.
up hurting your legacy in the long run.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, like dead ass, because that's the same shit I was thinking of. And it's like, it's almost like not fair, you know? Like you spend all this time, like I call it like spirit balling, you know what I mean? Where like, or sorry, spirit bombing. Like,
Yeah.
I want to treat an album like the spirit bomb. I want to sit there with that motherfucker for a long time, or Frieza will live, right? And everything goes to shit. And all that time I spent fucking focusing into it, like, didn't mean shit, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like they paint in such a way, like the Griselda camp, or at least I shouldn't even say the whole camp, but Estee Nack at least is putting shit out in such a way that he's not worried about a masterpiece, you know? He just leaves the work behind, and whatever's there, people will do with it like what they want. And if they decide to make it a masterpiece, then like, all right, cool. But like, I'm already like 2 projects ahead and shit. But I do agree, like, you know, that's like, you know, it's clear they don't give a fuck, right? Like, they're not worried about that shit. But I am, and sometimes I wish they would worry about it, just so that, like, you know, some of these artists who are so like talented could really like shine in their splendor in a way that, you know, they might not be able to if they just keep fucking pumping shit out.
And
I don't know.
Yeah, I think maybe the comparison would be Vic Spencer. Like,
yeah,
Vic has all these different projects running with these different producers and these different people. So he has like the Sunny Jim stuff over here. He has the August Fanon stuff over here. And so he's building different relationships all over the board and just kind of like dropping new installments.
Yeah.
And like sometimes those relationships come to a fruition where you're like, that's his best work. But a lot of times it's just new Vic, right? Where he's just going nuts.
Right.
And I think Nack is kind of,
yeah, it's kind of funny like that too that you mentioned that, because I mean, all due respect to Vic Spencer for sure, you know. I don't even know Cat, but like, you know, he's like Chicago like legend and shit.
Yep.
But it's funny because like I've been like wanting to try and get it. I've never heard a Vic Spencer album, and I've wanted to get into Vic Spencer for like quite a while. But I'm not really sure like where to start, because he has so much material, you know. And that's not even like a slight against him. It's just
it's just about like I need a map to get to where I want to go. Yeah.
Right, you know, it's just the byproduct, like being one of those dudes who just puts out so much fucking work, you know. Like it has its place, it has its pros and its cons, you know. Like there's drawbacks to it.
I would say the Psychological Cheat Sheet series, with Fanon means a lot to him. It means a lot to him, and you'll understand why. It's so I would start there. But yeah, it's there's some tracks on here on the Nack album I would lose. But I love We Made History. I love Green Cellophane. I think I would cut Tall Commando. You know, I love The Conductor, We Have a Problem. I think I would probably cut, you know, Mass Money Wires, which is over 5 minutes long, and I'm not sure why.
That one's so good.
It's so weird. So there's, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff on here, but it is a lot. I mean, SpaceX is great too. I had to do SpaceX. On SpaceX, he says he wants to do a song with Cardi B. Oh,
That'd be
that,
nuts.
that would be marvelous.
That'd kill me. Yeah.
And Nack describes the song as Dominican jazz rap, which is beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I know. I mean, honestly, like I feel like I would have to listen back a few more times to like know like if there was something like I wanted to cut, you know? I like I don't know, it's so hard. People say that to me all the time where they're like, yo, like I don't know, we should cut this song and that song. Why did they didn't need that one?
Yeah.
And it's so hard for me to know what to do with that as an artist because they're probably right. But I know that when I'm in that zone, crafting some shit and putting it together, every song is so fucking important to the overall
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah, that's the hard part about editing. Yeah.
Yeah, but that definitely like surely is working to my detriment though, and the detriment of a lot of artists sometimes that their vision is you know their vision is somehow bigger than the project itself. So they try and make the project big enough to fit the vision, and the project becomes so bloated that it pieces of it collapse in on themselves, and are forgotten.
Because you see the beauty in what you created,
right?
So you keep it there, but even when it doesn't fit there,
it doesn't belong.
That's a real issue.
But
Kay, what stood out to you
regarding this project?
Yep, songs. Any songs?
The song, like I said, let me get the track listing out again. I mean, to be honest, like by the end, I kind of just zoned out.
That's fair though, because it's almost like one song. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
It really is.
I thought the beginning, like the first half of the album was cool, but then like I felt like okay, like I get it. And then I think what messed it up for me is like I looked at how long the album was gonna be. So when I saw 52 minutes, that's always in the back of your mind. So you get through 4 tracks, 5 tracks, and then you're like, oh no, I got at least another 30 minutes.
And it was weird because it was like for me, like the first few times listening to it, it felt like it got longer. Like like this fucking album getting longer. Am I ever listening to this?
And I think that's just how over the past couple of years, the albums and projects have gotten shorter. So and in terms of that, like the listener's attention span has gotten shorter as well.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you've done like a really great, remarkable project, like I just don't. It's gonna be difficult for me to listen past 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Has Nack done a song with Action Bronson? Because that feels like it needs to happen.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's happened somewhere. Like
somewhere, exactly. That's
right?
the problem.
How many fucking right? Like how many albums? Like who knows?
Gotta dig.
So let's go to Midnight Oil. Because that's 10 songs, 26 minutes.
Yeah.
It's and that thing.
Which is funny. It feels longer, There's so much content. And it's also just so like I tried this album before, right? Before you would even this is like this is like fucking when did that shit drop? Like what, February or
February,
right?
Yep.
So like I tried that. I was like living in my last apartment and shit. I hadn't like moved yet. And I remember I was like making dinner. I was like, yeah, a bunch of people have been like talking about this, like people. So I put it on, got like 2-3 songs in, and I was like, I gotta stop. Like this is just too dark. Like I can't do this right now.
Like I got places to go. I got people to talk to. I can't be all sad like this.
An active album. Like you can't like get shit done with that shit on it. You have to like sit down and listen to that album. But I'm glad that you said that you put it on as like one of the choices, because now that I've given it the time and attention that it deserves, it is definitely, in my opinion, like lyrically, like one of the best albums I've heard in like quite a while. And I don't know, every time I listen to it, I hear another fucking line where I'm like, fuck, that's a good line, It's beautiful. Trying to got me wanting to hit bro up. Like, you want to collab or some shit? Like, damn, it's
would
crazy.
work. That would be great. I mean, I would say
Yeah.
I had the weirdest problem with this album.
Yeah.
It didn't even make sense. So, before this album dropped, I wanted to showcase Sunmundi, and I was like, Sunmundi's dope. You guys don't even know he's got all these cool Lucy's on his Bandcamp, and he's got enough Lucy's to make an album. So
Yeah.
I created my own fake album.
Ah, that's tight.
It was called Album Closers because the whole idea was that every Sunmundi song sounds like an album closer.
Yeah.
And so it was great, and I kind of laid out my order in an article. It was like, you can buy all these songs, and you can create this album for yourself. It was real cool, and I worked hard on it. And then he dropped this album, and I was kind of like, my album's better. I was like, really about it.
Oh, that's so bogus.
It was embarrassing, but that's how the brain is.
No, that's real.
And so I had given us some space, let go of that nonsense, approached the album fresh, and was like, this is good. Like,
Right.
and so I've really, it's grown on me. It's really grown on me over the course of months.
Yeah.
Kay, how did you feel about this because you didn't dive into the Lucy's like I did?
No, I didn't. I mean, I think it hit harder because I listened to it right after the Kari. And it's such it's interesting because the order that you listen to or the context that you listen to albums can really change how you perceive them. I guess that's with anything, but yeah, I mean, it felt like one of those albums, like you can't listen to it passively.
No, it's true.
Yeah, you have to like really like sit with it. And then, and then I read have you read the Bandcamp description?
No.
Yeah.
So he really meant what I appreciated, and what I took in terms of, the term that we're using is intensity. What I took from it is this was an album he really wanted you to sit with it.
Right.
And he was really intense in that desire. Like, I don't want you doing it. I don't even want you washing dishes. I want you to sit on your couch or your chair and sit and listen to what I'm saying.
Right. And it's a lot like the cover. If you look at the cover, in order to understand what's going on at all, you have to stare at it for a while. It's dark, right? And I think the album is like that. The album, the cover is the album. So and Us Now is such a cool intro because it's spooky, it's philosophical, and it's desperate and haunting. And that's what this is, what your journey is going to be, there's so many lines I wrote down on inertia, pass like a whisper through divine, history remembered as a threat. I got inertia, not nerves. I'm trying to see the promised land before I lie in dirt. Oof.
Yeah.
There's so many quotables.
Very poetic. Yeah.
Yeah. I got a bunch too though. I think I'm like, pay for it, paying for progress. We don't die, we dissect.
Ooh. Yeah. I mean,
me and the ground are like airtight. Which I was like, I think what I know and what I don't know are both infinite. Like,
yes. I mean, it's the thing about the poetry of it, Kay, is that like we talked about this a little bit on the Don't Go Outside, because he's also on that. Shout out to Unruly and Clown Cat. Two of these people are from that album. Yeah, so Sunmundi is incredibly poetic and avant-garde, but delivers lines like a battle rapper. So it's like, so he'll say that shit, and you'll be like, God damn it! It hits even harder, right? Like, he's omniscient but goes missing. What the fuck?
That was one of the ones I wrote down too.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it all to be over, balance and composure.
Yeah.
Jeez, well, that's a critical moment in the album, Future Myth. That's 6. So, great song titles. Heaven Metal, my sleeping back, Copernicus, uh, everything on here, every word is important, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's incredibly. I mean, I want to say that it's a similar to like what I was saying with like Kari Faux, it's like a really intentionally crafted piece, but I
Mhm.
feel like it's almost moot to even say that because it's just its own. I mean, it's sort of a purging and a grieving process, like
Yes.
to wax. So to say that it's, I mean, he wouldn't need to have intent. Like it is its own intent. I don't know how else to put that. Um, and it's just so, I don't know. I think like the production does a really good job of caring for what's happening because it's niggas talk about like drumless beats and shit, yada yada, right? Being, a problem or whatever. But this is like
Yep.
a
Yep.
really excellent example of when like a drumless beats are almost imperative to what's happening because the shit that's being delivered is so, percussion can almost act as a rock to stumble over at times, right? But
Mhm.
there's no rocks to stumble over here. There's this canvas so that this person can like, you know, lay down all of his grievances all at once, one after the other, with no distraction. It's almost
Yep.
like a beat would be
Good way to put
distracting,
it.
or a percussion would be distracting. It
Yep.
just it's its own, and he also like rhythmically like carries it fine on his own. Anyway, I also want to speak to the production just a little bit too, not just a little bit, but
Is it Āthmaan? Is it
I
how
think
you
I think Āthmaan like
Āthmaan? Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
this is like a fucking Hindu concept of like Āthmaan being like the real self, like the true
Mhm.
self. Um it's gotta be what he means because this shit is so esoteric and weird sounding that I'm like, of course this is with the fucking like Buddhist monk like samples and shit, like it's gotta be
Oh,
what he means.
it's
Um
such a cool sound. It's such a unique
yeah,
sound. The
yeah,
way the samples are done. There's these like they're almost like repeat whispers in the background. Uh, it's the chanting is everywhere.
yeah, definitely. It's they're like there's samples that I feel like a lot of other producers would pass over as
Oh,
maybe too weird or just don't sound nice enough or whatever. So this dude's able to craft these beautiful fucking sonic pockets that you can't really duplicate anywhere else because no one would really think to. Like I feel like he's finding like beauty in these places where most of us just wouldn't look for it.
for sure.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just very well done, especially with something like Sunmundi rapping over it. It's fucking I don't know.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
album
think
feels like a true collaboration, and like
yeah, I was thinking
yeah,
that same thing.
and
No,
and
go
it
ahead.
and it's about like sometimes when you like you want your first album to be like I'm spitting, you know,
Mm,
you got to know who I am. I'm important. And Midnight Oil is very patient and
Yeah.
calculated, and it's like this is my first novel, you know.
definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel I mean it is a novel. There's like this I'm trying to figure out what this book. I don't know. I hate to draw this comparison, right?
Do it.
But we all are kind of thinking it, right? It's like Ka, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's cop.
Yeah.
Very
There's cop.
Ka-like,
Yeah,
it's a Ka-like album for sure.
yeah.
But I feel like the kind of difference is that, they both have like this sort of like novel like energy to them, right? Where something's being delivered. But I feel like a
Mhm.
Ka album maybe works more like, Ka's introspective, but I feel like Ka is like he's like externally introspective, right? Speaking to everything happening around him and
hmm
speaking on like how that has affected him and
Yep.
like the interplay between those things. And then in this project, Sunmundi's more internally introspective And you know, there's always talk about dreams in this project too, right? Where
Yep.
there's all these, you know, very solid physical concepts and images, but they're delivered and you know, strung together in this way that they become just these, you know, they're not like grounded in logic anymore, right? When they
Yep.
say
Yep.
like, you know, I sat on a satellite counting ships, you know, shit like that. I don't know. I just feel like it they do the same thing in a weird way, but you know, I feel like Sunmundi's is kind of like it's more hidden away. It's
Mhm.
the cause as introspective as Ka may seem, he's pretty in your face. It's pretty clear what
Yeah.
he's talking about
No,
a lot of
he's
the time.
like
But
Sunmundi
this,
is a child of Ka,
yeah,
but a weird child.
right.
Uh,
Like this shit
yeah,
acts more like a dreamscape, you know? Like there's not always like a logical like through line to it, whereas Ka is very, you know, like
I'm
this
with you.
that happened to us. I'm just saying it in a really cool way though, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm
But
with you. I think it's unique. Hey, did you have any favorite runs? Did you have anything you were into?
No, I've got to go back to it again. I just thought it I mean, it really blended together well. It was, and I guess, like reading the description, that was by design. Like he wanted
Yeah.
it to be. So there's no like one specific. What I mean by that, there's no one specific track that like stands out to me specifically. It's just one experience.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, the one I became most fascinated with over time was Original Child,
Interesting.
because he says, after class, I vowed 200 shots. T-Mac from the corner, Arenas from the 3 spot. The whole verse is really amazing. It's very personal and very vivid. Uh, small also I wrote the small details make this beat awesome. It's not a big beat with a lot of crazy stuff going on, but if you listen, there's a lot of movements within it that are really cool. And it was just cool to hear him get personal and talk about how it was growing up, or being on that court alone, just shooting 200 jump shots. Uh, imagining yourself hitting the buzzer beater, and it was just really cool and really human. Uh, and it stood out because he's so analytical. Sunmundi's so analytical
Interesting.
that like a lot of it is very like that. And the Original Child was very like, I'm standing next to you in the scene now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's funny. I hadn't really thought about it like that. Of him as analytical, but it really is.
Yep.
There's so many. I mean, he drops gems too, like all across this shit.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
It really is like kind of like sitting next to your fucking, you know, older cousin that you haven't seen
Mhm.
in like 7 years, and he's just been through fucking so much shit since the last time you saw him.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
got all this wild shit to tell you, but he's
Yep.
not telling you exactly what happened most of the time, except for even
No, he's just giving you like
yeah,
mantras. He's giving
right.
you
What
mantras.
he learned from it, because like the
Yep.
shit that happened, he doesn't want to. He don't want to talk about that shit, you know.
Right.
But
Right.
I thought that listening was the one that hit me the most.
Oh, we should talk about that, because I like that this album builds and falls.
Yeah.
To Kay's point of it being his natural journey, inertia and natural cause really ramp up what the album's about,
Yeah.
And then Copernicus, I wrote, this album is trying to close, and this song is connected to that. The landing gear is out,
Right.
and then listening hits, and it's just, this had to be the closer, right? You love how the beat wraps around the "Oh my God, I'm listening." The sample kind of hits right behind that.
Yeah.
I use one thing I noted. I would like Sunmundi to do more with the voice next album. It's a real opportunity.
With the voice? How do you mean?
Just like, this is a lot of this album is like the beat goes and Sunmundi goes, and
Yeah.
breaking it up and changing the song and experimenting with different pockets or different sing-songy style things, or just differentiating the. I'm not saying the album needs that. It's great right now. But when you talk about a space to grow, I can't wait till Sunmundi starts experimenting with song structure.
Yeah, I mean, when you say song structure, I can see that. It's funny because he definitely has I mean, on certain songs, he definitely has like a verse hook mentality, right? Like there's definitely like an A B through line. But as far as like what's actually happening over the beat, and like, what are we doing with the flow to like accentuate this hook, right? Like it's almost you miss that some of them are even hooks sometimes, because it sounds like he's just spitting still. And he is, which again, like I agree, like, yeah, like I'm okay with it here, but it would be interesting to see like what he would do over something else, I gotta peep the rest of his, but you said that you already peeped all his singles and shit though, right?
Oh yeah.
So is it, because I mean this is a very specific ass producer, so like what would you say it's like across like other shit? Because I'm not as familiar with him,
I mean he's still Sunmundi, but it's there's different. You should check out the song he has with Big Flowers that's on his Bandcamp. It's really dope.
That's the homie. Oh yeah,
it's really dope. And the Big Flowers, they're tight. They have very like-minded being, and I think there's room to grow within that avant-garde space and make weird music that will sound as crazy as the stuff he's saying, and this is a great first album, but one of the things that's great about it is this doesn't feel like the final level of Sunmundi.
No, I would agree. There's more to come.
Yeah,
there's more levels to come, and I'm excited to see what those levels are, as we keep doing it a different way. Any final thoughts, or are we ready to go to recommendation corner?
No, I think we're ready.
Let's do it.
Wait, anything else? No, it's fine.
Recommendation corner.
Go ahead.
One of the albums that we talked about possibly doing here, I absolutely love, so I wanted to shout it out. It's Battery by Sacco and Vanzetti.
I haven't peeped that yet. I've been hearing good things though.
It's dope. It's so dope. They have a really cool relationship, and they've been building on that. So I've been doing that. Also, I'm gonna shout out. I'm starting to reload on some old albums that I used to love. And I'm gonna go Judas Priest, British Steel.
Never once in my entire life listened to Judas Priest.
Judas Priest is so cool because it basically, I don't know if you've heard the full story, but like they were gods of the metal scene, and it turns out like all the outfits they were wearing were from like gay sex shops, and they were like they were gay, and like people were like, the old head metal people were like, oh my god,
gay. I didn't know they were gay. That's wild.
Yeah, I think certainly the lead singer. Yeah, I mean, so he was, and when you if you listen to British Steel, and then you listen to like some Queen, it's not that different. Like it's basically, there was a point in metal where it was like not that different from stadium rock.
Yeah.
Like Dio is just not that far away from stadium rock. So like British Steel is just stupid fun. It's stupid fun. It's so yep. So those are my recommendations. Yeah. Okay.
Specific.
Yes. I got Dante Ross's memoir. And that's been dope. So I've been reading that.
Okay.
It's really good. and it's definitely Dante's voice. So it's cool for him to be, examining himself and his life like this. It just takes a lot to do that and put it all in perspective. So I admire anybody able to do that.
Definitely.
Yep. I don't think I remember enough of my life to do that. I kind of just move on. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, that's cool. Like people will go up to me and tell me crazy things that I did, and I'll be like, oh wow, that sounds wild. Retain that shit. I'm moving on. I've got sports data to cram up here. So, what are you listening to, Rama?
What am I listening to today? Let's see. I was actually, I mean, so I've been listening to a lot of shit in general just because doing my fucking radio show. Let me do a little shameless self-plug real shit, right?
Do it.
My radio show on beloved.wtf. That's a website, beloved.wtf, like what the fuck.
Yep.
And my radio show is called Black Shower with Joshua Virtue. Then I do it the third Friday of every month at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I just fucking find shit that I've been listening to, whether it be old or new, and just string them together. There's been a lot of like endless sick shit coming out. Just too much shit comes out all the fucking time. It's hard to fucking know where to start and stop. But my homies in this band called Karma Fate, they dropped an EP recently that's Karma, like, whatever, but Fate spelled Fete. And they got this joint called Deep End Int. And it's just really fucking weird and very well produced and thoughtfully produced. I do have a feature on it, but I listen to it more not for my feature. But it's very good, very well done, very well put together, very thoughtful, like forward thinking, like obsessive production where there's so much weird little shit happening all throughout it that like you'll think, how the fuck did they make this? It's only like 3 songs too, so easy to get through. Really fucking dope. What else have I been peeping recently? I've been fucking with this dude Jerome Ellis. He's this artist. I think he's from New York. I'm not really sure, but he's this sick artist who he made this album called The Clearing that's very beautiful, and like it's like a jazz but spoken word, but also with some trap elements, and it's highly conceptual and strange, and a lot of it is just this person talking. And he's a very like Afrofuturistic thinker. I'm probably misgendering them. I'm not even sure what their gender or pronouns are, but just they're like a very like Afrofuturistic like thinker, and they have a stutter, so they spend a lot of time like taking apart what that means in terms of time and space and what their place is in society, but also like how it changes the way that they communicate with people. And it's so thought-provoking and so fucking beautiful. It's a weird listen for sure. Definitely listen to it when you're like in one of those just kind of ghostly moods. Maybe listen to it on like a rainy day or some shit where things are kind of quiet around the apartment while you got shit to do and you want to be introspective. But it is quite beautiful. I'm fucking with it heavy. And then the homies here in Chicago, Cordoba, their band, they're like a jazz, like almost like not proggy, but very forward thinking, like jazz band. A lot of my homies are in that. They just recently released an album called In Hell. And it's fucking so beautiful and so weird and thoughtful. Definitely like kind of, I don't know, they just all come together really well. Probably my favorite band in Chicago and an excellent jazz band. Everybody should hear their work everywhere forever, and I can't plug them enough. They're fucking sick. So please check
That's
out.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you got?
Okay, so I recently got into the Summer Walker project, Clear to
Oh, it's a good
Soft
one.
Life.
I like that one.
I really enjoyed it. And then randomly, I've been on a salsa kick.
Nice.
So I came across the song, it's El Cantante from Hector Lavoe.
Yeah.
So I mean, which is I've been listening to that nonstop. So I got in. I'd recommend his album, Comedia. Came out in '78.
All right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Just so those would be my two recommendations for this week.
Got me running with salsa. Love it.
Yeah, I'm not about my salsa business, but like I would love to hop into that shit.
I mean, and that El Cantate, which is the singer, it's like I mean, it's one of the best songs I've ever heard. I just discovered it on last Friday, I would say, and I've already listened to it so many times. It's like a 10-minute song, but I mean, it's just I mean, if you know his story and you listen to the lyrics, it's just incredible song.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. The follow K Diggy on social media. KW Rollins and
two
Deuce.
Yeah.
And go ahead and send him Succession memes.
Oh yeah.
You know, let him pile up those Succession memes.
Follow. We could have taken some time to talk about Succession.
Oh man, I could go on.
Don't get me started.
Oh, I almost slipped up too. I'm glad that I caught myself. I almost slipped up, but yeah, I almost slipped up and told the ending. But yeah, I love Succession. I am disappointed that, you know, all within the span of a week, Barry's ended, Ted Lasso, and Succession.
I didn't know Ted Lasso ended. I'm not like really caught up on that shit, but the end of Barry was also crazy. Good,
yeah, it feels like HBO is done. Like it just
seems
the
like
new Max thing is rough.
And then, you know, Dan, Righteous Gemstones 3 starts in a couple. Season 3 starts in a couple weeks. So
shit, I started the show way back when. I never really was able to like carry it, but it was good. But I was watching it.
It was good. It was good. Follow it. Subscribe to the Patreon. Enjoy that. Thank you for all the patrons who are doing great work, and some of them giving me recommendations, keeping me up on stuff. I appreciate everybody being in and enjoying what we do here. It's awesome. So, and I did email a new potential sponsor today. So, who I think would be a good sponsor. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, stay strong and you know, send K Diggy Succession me.
What will tomorrow bring? What will tomorrow